Fly fishermen consume a lot of flies. Therefore, we can buy them, or like me, tie them myself. Fly tying is a hobby in the fly fishing hobby itself, and therefore I used to spend the whole winter behind my tying vise to prepare the upcoming season. It's a very nice way to do that, because you never really leave your dreams and the water in all your preparation. Here I'm going to show you how to tie 3 different wet flies, and I will start with the classic spider pattern, Partridge Orange. And like you can hear in the name, it's 2 materials, orange silk together with the classic partridge hackle that we have seen in so many other wet flies over the years. But I will add a 3rd material, a small portion of hare's fur dubbing just behind the hackle to strengthen it up. So let's start with the Partridge Orange.
Secure the tying thread and cover the shaft of the hook with an even layer of thread to a position just before the barb. Turn and rib the tying thread over the first layer. Select a brown hackle from the back of the bird. Between the wings is usually a good place. The ideal length of a hackle should be about as long as the hook. To make a really good hackle, pull off some extra fibres from the right-hand side of the feather while the front of the feather is facing you. Fasten the hackle just behind the eye of the hook. Dub a thin layer of hare fur over the thread and then wind a thinned out thorax behind the secured hackle. Wind the hackle back about 2 turns towards the thorax. Secure the hackle and then wind the tying thread on through the hackle as far as the eye of the hook. Finish off by winding on a small head and securing with a strong finishing knot.
The March brown is for me one of the most classic wet flies that fly fishermen have fished with maybe 400 years back in time. The March brown at that time was not exactly the same fly that we nowadays use, but very, very similar. March brown is an extremely effective fly that always used to give a lot of fish. For me, that's important because when I have people out for guiding, it's important to fish with flies that I believe in, and March brown is definitely one of those flies. I will tie this March brown with a wing of pheasant hen, and these wings, they can be a little bit tricky to get in a proper way, but I will show you how to make those wings quite easy. Even if most people, a lot of people anyway, used to fish the March brown in larger sizes, I do prefer to tie them in size 14 and 16 because I have found out that the smaller size hook used to produce a lot more fish than the larger size do. So let's go for the March brown.
Secure the tying thread and then cover the shaft of the hook by winding the thread back to the end of the shaft. Choose 3 to 4 long hackle fibres from the feathers closest to the tail of the bird. Start by locking the tail fibres with a couple of loose turns of thread and then tighten it. This will keep the tail feathers in place. By stretching out the ribbing, the first few turns will be narrower than the rest. Dub the body material to form a very thin layer over the tying thread. If you use too much dubbing, then the fly will be overdressed and unnatural. Wind an even body over about 3/4 of the shaft of the hook. Then add the ribbing. Choose a brown hackle from the bird's back. The ideal length of a hackle should be about as long as the shaft of the hook. cut out a wing section from both the left and right twisting wing feather. Place the wings back to back. Be very careful to adjust them so the wing tips are in the same position. Position the wings in front of the hackle, directly over the shaft of the hook. Wind 2 loose loops of thread around the root of the wing, hold the wings firmly and tighten the thread by pulling straight down. Wind on a few more turns to form a small head behind the eye of the hook.
Another type of flies that belongs under the wet flies are the Flims. That once was developed by the American angler Mr. Leisenring. And typical for the Flims is that their bodies are made with spun silk together with fur from either hair mask, mole or mink, any kind of hair that you like to use. I have caught fish all over the world with the Flims, and they definitely belong to a category of flies that I love to fish with. And the fly I'm gonna tie now is a Flim made with hare's ear and Partridge hackle. So let's go for a nice Flim.
Prepare to make the body by securing a waxed silk thread to the spinning block. Trim the olive-coloured dubbing so that the hair is short and place it straight over the thread. trim the next coloured material, which will form the dark thorax of the fly. Position these fibres over the tying thread as well, right behind the olive coloured material. Turn the bare thread over the fibres and put it together with the ends of the lower thread. Carefully rotate the two ends together while keeping the threads taut. When the upper and lower threads are twined together, secure the eye so that the threads remain taut. Secure a length of wire and wind this on in 5 or 6 tight turns to make a small butt. When you remove the threads from the spinning block, make sure they don't unwind. Secure the spun body so that the olive-coloured part is closest to the shaft of the hook. Choose a suitable partridge hackle. The ideal length of a hackle should be somewhat longer than the entire length of the hook. Pull off more fibres from the right than from the left-hand side of the feather. This reduces the risk of getting an overdressed fly. Secure the hackle behind the eye of the hook. Wind on the dubbing to form an even body all the way to where the hackle's placed. Remember that the body should be in 2 colours, an olive-coloured rear and a dark brown thorax. Then add the ribbing. If you want the ribbing to be very visible, wind it on in the opposite direction to how the body has been wound. Wind the hackle back with 2 or 3 turns towards the body. Secure the hackle and wind the tying thread as far as the eye of the hook. Wind on an even head of thread and complete the fly with a strong finishing knot.